What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and this is my MMA Contenders video for FanDuel's UFC slate this Saturday. Now be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all of our other content goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get updates to these sim results as we get closer to lock. And finally, let me know in the comment section, who are your favorite fighters? Who are your favorite MVPs and utility plays for FanDuel's slate this Saturday? Breaking news just happened fairly recently. Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, the former main event of this card is off. It's gone. Curtis Blades has COVID. I almost said the coronavirus, but Curtis Blades has COVID. So that fight is out. Anthony Smith and Devin Clark is now in the main event. Still just a 3-round fight, so we've only got 10 fights now. Here is the breakdown of my top 10. We'll start at the bottom. Rachel Ostovich, Luke Sanders, Devin Clark, Bill Algeo, and ASHLEE Evan Smith are rounding out the bottom half of my top 10. Now we move on to my number 5. Now coming in, number 5, we've got Josh Parisian. He's actually number 2 in my DraftKings video, which you can probably find somewhere around here. The problem here with Parisian is that I think he's just a bit too expensive. $22 is a pretty healthy price tag. Shows up in the MVP spot in the optimal 9% of the time, shows up in the utility 31% of the time. Now that's fine, that's enough to get him to 5, but I think you can find a little bit more value elsewhere. 22 is a big number. Pairs really well with Anthony Smith, pairs really well with Bill Algeo. You can save some salary in other spots if you need to go that direction. I like Parisian, I like him to finish this fight, but I think we have a couple better options, at least on FanDuel. One of those better options is Spike CARLYLE. CARLYLE, similar odds to win the fight. He's only like 3% behind Parisian. Parisian was 65%, Spike CARLYLE 62%. But CARLYLE's only $19, and that's important. 77 fantasy point projection. He shows up as the optimal MVP 7% of the time, shows up in the optimal utility spot 35% of the time. By saving that $3, you're going to have a much easier time filling out your entire lineup on FanDuel. I prefer Spike CARLYLE to Josh Parisian. If you do have the money, I get it, but we're talking about a guy that I think is going to go a little bit underrepresented, both in the MVP spot and in the utility spot. So keep a close eye on the ownership, but for now, that puts Spike CARLYLE number 4. Coming in number 3 at $21, my number 1 play on DraftKings, that's MUDAERJI. 81.9 fantasy point projection, wins this fight 74% of the time, the biggest favorite on the card. The optimal MVP 14% of the time, that's the biggest MVP odds that I have out of the sim. Shows up in the optimal utility spot 38% of the time. I think it's pretty easy to get to, and that's another reason why I think it's hard to spend that extra $1 on Josh Parisian for a slightly worse projection. I would much rather go to MUDAERJI and save the $1. He's more frequent to win by quite a bit. MUDAERJI wins 74% of the time. Josh Parisian just 65%. You're going to feel a lot safer here. This one's a no-brainer. Spend the money, grab him for 21 bucks. Or you can spend that same $21 on Kai Kamaka, my number 2. Very similar projection. They're both coming in around 81.9. Kamaka wins this fight 73% of the time. Very similar to Sue. Shows up in the optimal MVP spot just 12% of the time. A little bit more frequently in the utility spot 41% of the time. Whether you're going to Kamaka, you're going to Sue, or you're rostering them both. As you can see, Sue is the second best option to go with Kai Kamaka. I don't think you can go wrong here. 2 monster favorites. The expectation is that they both win this fight. Based on their current odds, we're talking about a 16% chance that both Kai and Sue are in the optimal lineup. That's a pretty big number for 2 heavy favorites. I'm going to have a hard time getting away from them, but I have to prioritize Kamaka over Sue if you only have $21 left. And finally, my number 1 MMA contender for this UFC card on FanDuel this weekend, I'm going to Anthony Smith. $16, just not enough. He's 56% to win this fight. Now, it's not going to be a 5-rounder. This is only going to be 3 rounds, but he shows up in the optimal MVP spot 13% of the time. That's outpacing his current projected ownership. Shows up in the optimal utility spot 41% of the time. No fighter on this card shows up more in the optimal lineup than Anthony Smith. Now, it hasn't been a great run over the past 2 or 3 years. He's taken some beatings both in the cage and I guess at least slightly in his own home. But he is an incredible value. He should be more expensive than $16. More importantly, Devin Clark should not only be $1 cheaper. Anthony Smith, significantly more likely to win this fight than his opponent. I'm not entirely sure why this is as close as it seems from a salary perspective. Anthony Smith should probably be like $18. That savings is massive when you only have $100 to spend on FanDuel. Whether you want to put him in the MVP spot or the utility spot, I think Anthony Smith is the best play on the slate. Alrighty folks, that will do it. Those are my MMA contenders for Saturday's UFC card. One last reminder, don't roster Curtis Blades, don't roster Derek Lewis. Those guys are off of this card. We're down to 10 fights. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman, and let me know in the comments section who are your favorite options for this Saturday's UFC card. Keep your eyes peeled, guys. I will be back again next Friday for another edition of the MMA Contenders.